Have you ever wondered why some of the strongest souls emerge from the darkest places? Why those destined for greatness often begin their journey in valleys of shadow rather than mountains of light? Today, let's unlock a profound truth that many struggle to understand: why the chosen ones are often born into toxic families. It's a question that echoes in countless hearts. Why this family, Lord? Why this burden? The weight of toxic relationships feels like carrying an ocean on your shoulders, each wave threatening to pull you under. But what if I told you that your placement in that family wasn't a cosmic accident or divine punishment? What if instead it was a sacred appointment, a divine positioning that speaks of purpose rather than punishment? In the furnace of affliction, gold doesn't just survive, it's refined. Isaiah 48:10 speaks this truth. Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Your toxic family environment isn't just a challenge to overcome. It's the very crucible where your destiny is being forged. Think about it. Diamonds aren't formed in gentle environments, but under intense pressure and heat. Similarly, those chosen for extraordinary purposes often face extraordinary challenges. Consider David, the shepherd boy who became king. Before he ever wore a crown, he learned leadership in the wilderness, facing lions and bears while tending his father's sheep. His own family overlooked him. His father nearly forgot to present him to Samuel, and later, his brothers mocked his courage. Yet it was precisely these experiences that shaped him into the warrior king who would lead Israel. The very circumstances that seemed to diminish him were actually preparing him for greatness. The truth is, being born into a toxic family isn't a sign of abandonment. It's often a mark of divine selection. It's as if God looks at certain souls and says, This one needs to be forged in stronger fires because of the destiny they carry. Just as a master swordsmith subjects the finest blades to the hottest fires, those chosen for great purpose often face greater trials. Look at Moses, raised in Pharaoh's palace but born to enslaved parents. His unique position, straddling two worlds, understanding both oppressor and oppressed, wasn't a coincidence. It was divine positioning. The very dysfunction and complexity of his upbringing equipped him to become one of history's greatest liberators. The pain of his early years became the foundation of his purpose. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Pain plants the flag of truth within a rebel fortress." In toxic families, pain becomes a teacher, albeit a severe one. You learn to read people's emotions before they speak them. You develop resilience that others can barely comprehend. You gain wisdom that couldn't be learned in peaceful environments. These aren't just survival skills. They're leadership qualities being refined in the furnace of adversity. Think about Joseph, whose brother's betrayal led him to his destiny. The toxic jealousy in his family didn't destroy him. It catalyzed his journey to becoming second in command of Egypt. Genesis 50:20 captures his revelation. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. The very poison intended to destroy him became the pathway to his purpose. But let's be honest, understanding the purpose doesn't always ease the pain. Some days the weight feels unbearable. The constant criticism, the emotional manipulation, the walking on eggshells, it can feel like drowning in darkness. Yet even in these moments, remember that darkness is often the canvas upon which God paints his most masterful works. In Jeremiah 1-5, God declares, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart." This wasn't a casual placement, it was strategic positioning. The chosen ones are often planted in toxic soil because they're meant to become spiritual botanists, experts in transforming poisoned ground into fertile gardens. The qualities that toxic families unknowingly cultivate in you: heightened empathy, deep emotional intelligence, remarkable resilience, unwavering strength. These aren't random developments. They're tools being fashioned for your future mission. You're learning the language of pain not to become fluent in suffering, but to become skilled in healing. Consider this: the most effective healers often emerge from places of deepest wounding. The most compassionate leaders often rise from environments of greatest hardship. The most powerful voices for change often come from those who first had to find their voice in the midst of silence. You're not just surviving your toxic family, you're being trained in their midst. As C.S. Lewis notes in The Problem of Pain, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Your pain isn't purposeless, it's preparatory. The very environment that threatens to break you is actually breaking open the shell that contains your greatness. Remember the story of the butterfly. The struggle to emerge from its cocoon is what strengthens its wings for flight. If someone, in misguided kindness, were to cut open the cocoon to help the butterfly, they would actually doom it to a life of crawling. Similarly, the struggles within your toxic family environment, though painful, are strengthening you for future flight. But being chosen doesn't mean being abandoned to struggle alone. Psalm 27:10 offers this comfort. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. The very gaps left by toxic family relationships create space for divine relationship to flourish. What seems like abandonment is actually an invitation into deeper spiritual intimacy. You might ask, why couldn't I have been prepared in gentler ways? It's like asking why military special forces undergo more rigorous training than regular soldiers. The answer lies in the magnitude of their mission. Your difficult family environment isn't just about what you're going through, it's about what you're going to. The intensity of your training often correlates with the importance of your calling. The chosen ones born into toxic families often develop a unique spiritual sensitivity. When you can't rely on the stability of human love, you become acutely attuned to divine love. When earthly parents prove unreliable, your ability to trust and understand your heavenly Father often deepens in profound ways. What seems like a deficit becomes a catalyst for extraordinary spiritual development. Consider this. In nature, the most powerful healing plants often grow in harsh conditions. Aloe thrives in desert environments. The most potent medicines are often found in the most challenging terrains. Similarly, those destined to bring healing to others often emerge from environments that require them to first discover healing for themselves. Isaiah 61:3 speaks of giving beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. This isn't just poetic language, it's a divine principle. The chosen ones often emerge from ashes because they're meant to demonstrate this transformation firsthand. Your story isn't just about survival, it's about supernatural transformation. The chosen ones in toxic families often develop what I call spiritual night vision, the ability to see hope and navigate purpose even in the darkest circumstances. Like soldiers trained for night operations, you develop senses that others never have to use. The very darkness that was meant to disable you becomes the training ground for exceptional spiritual perception. Remember, being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. It means being purposeful. The scars you carry aren't marks of shame. They're marks of training, like a soldier's calluses or an athlete's muscle tears. They tell the story not of what broke you, but of what you overcame. They're not blemishes to be hidden, but badges of honor in your journey of becoming. As your journey continues, remember this: your toxic family environment isn't your destiny, it's your training ground. You're not there by accident, you're there by appointment. The very qualities that will make you effective in your calling are being forged in the furnace of your current struggles. So hold your head high, chosen one. Your placement wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. The fire that was meant to destroy you is actually refining you. The pressure that was meant to crush you is actually forming you. You're not just a survivor of a toxic family, you're a warrior being trained for divine purpose. Let this truth settle in your spirit. You were placed in that family not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen. The very circumstances that seem to speak of rejection actually whisper of selection. You're not just enduring, you're being equipped. You're not just surviving, you're being prepared to thrive. And as you emerge from this furnace of affliction, you'll carry within you not just the scars of survival, but the strength of one who has been divinely refined. Your story isn't just about what you've endured, it's about what you're becoming. The chosen ones aren't chosen for ease, they're chosen for impact. And your impact, forged in the fires of adversity, will be nothing short of extraordinary. Think about the ancient practice of kintsugi, where Japanese artisans repair broken pottery with gold, making the cracks the most beautiful part of the vessel. Your brokenness, those deep wounds from toxic family relationships, They're not meant to remain as jagged scars. In God's hands, they become gold-filled lines of testimony, marking you not as damaged, but as deliberately reformed into something more valuable, more beautiful than before. The chosen ones often carry what I call a divine dichotomy. They bear both deep wounds and extraordinary healing power. Like a skilled surgeon who once experienced the pain of injury, your personal journey through family toxicity isn't just about your healing. It's about becoming an instrument of healing for others. Your scars become your credentials in the ministry of restoration. Ezekiel 36:26 promises, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." This transformation isn't just personal, it's generational. You're not just breaking cycles of toxicity. You're establishing new patterns of blessing that will echo through generations to come. The pain stops with you because the purpose begins with you. There's a phenomenon in nature called ecological succession, where devastating forest fires actually prepare the soil for new, stronger growth. Similarly, the emotional fires you've endured in your toxic family environment aren't just destroying old patterns. They're preparing the ground for new life, new purpose, new blessing to emerge. You're not just a survivor. You're a pioneer of new spiritual territory. The chosen ones carry what I call sacred sensitivities, heightened awareness born from walking through darkness. Like how a blind person develops enhanced hearing, your challenges have developed in you spiritual senses that others may never need to use. The very things that hurt you have helped create in you an extraordinary capacity for discernment, compassion, and spiritual insight. Consider this profound truth. Pearls are formed through irritation, through pain, through a response to invasion and injury. Yet they become some of the most precious gems in existence. Your toxic family environment, like that grain of sand in an oyster, is producing in you a pearl of great price, wisdom, strength, and purpose that couldn't be formed any other way. When David wrote Psalm 139-14, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made," he wasn't just speaking about physical formation, but about divine purpose. Your placement in a toxic family wasn't a cosmic oversight. It was part of your fearful and wonderful making. The very environment that seems to contradict your worth is actually confirming your calling. Remember, the darkness of your beginning doesn't determine the light of your future. You're not just born into a toxic family. You're born for a divine purpose. And that purpose is greater than any pain you've endured. Stand tall, chosen one. Your time of preparation is becoming your platform for purpose. The fire has not consumed you, it has consecrated you. The pain has not defined you, it has refined you. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a victor through your calling. For in the grand tapestry of divine purpose, your story isn't a tragic tale of survival. It's an epic saga of transformation, redemption, and extraordinary impact. The chosen ones aren't chosen by chance. They're chosen by design. And your design, forged in the fires of adversity, shaped in the waters of trials, and strengthened in the furnace of affliction, is nothing short of masterful. Rise up, chosen one. Your family history isn't your destiny, it's your training ground. Your pain isn't your identity, it's your preparation. Your struggle isn't your story, it's your strength. For you were born not just into difficulty, but into destiny. Not just into pain, but into purpose. Not just into toxicity, but into transformation. The time has come to see your story through heaven's eyes. You're not a victim of circumstance, but a victor in training. Not a casualty of toxicity, but a catalyst for change. Your presence in that toxic family isn't a punishment. It's a positioning for purpose. Stand tall, walk forward, and embrace the calling. For the fire that was meant to destroy you is becoming the light that will guide others home. Think about the ancient redwood trees, some of the oldest living things on earth. These magnificent giants don't grow in isolation. Their roots intertwine beneath the soil, supporting each other through storms and seasons. Similarly, the chosen ones, though often emerging from toxic families, are destined to become part of a greater support system for others. Your painful past is preparing you to be an anchor of strength in the forest of humanity. Consider the process of tempering steel. The metal must be heated, then rapidly cooled, then heated again, a cycle that seems harsh and contradictory. Yet this very process creates a blade that is both incredibly strong and remarkably flexible. Your experiences in a toxic family environment are like this tempering process. The dramatic shifts between chaos and calm, between hope and despair, aren't breaking you. They're tempering you into an instrument of extraordinary resilience and adaptability. Romans 8:28 assures us that God works all things together for good for those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. Notice it doesn't say some things or the good things, but all things. The toxic words spoken over you, the emotional wounds inflicted, the battles fought in silence. God is working every single piece of your story into a masterpiece of purpose. Like a master weaver who uses both bright and dark threads to create a tapestry of stunning beauty, God is using every experience, even the painful ones, to weave your life into a testimony of His redemptive power. The chosen ones often develop what I call spiritual sonar. Like dolphins navigating through dark waters using echoes, you learn to navigate through emotional turbulence by developing acute spiritual discernment. The very environment that threatened to drown you has taught you to swim in deeper waters than most will ever know. Your capacity to sense spiritual currents, to detect underlying truths, to navigate through emotional storms. These aren't just survival mechanisms, they're divine gifts being refined through experience. In the world of gemology, there's a fascinating truth about emeralds. Almost all natural emeralds have inclusions, tiny flaws, and fractures within the stone. Yet these flaws are what gemologists call garden, because they look like little gardens inside the emerald. These inclusions are actually part of what makes each emerald unique and valuable. Similarly, the flaws and wounds from your toxic family environment aren't diminishing your value. They're part of your unique beauty, your spiritual jargon, creating patterns of grace that make your story uniquely powerful. Think of yourself as a spiritual archaeologist, trained by adversity to recognize treasure in unlikely places. The painful experiences you've endured have given you an extraordinary ability to spot signs of hope in the rubble of broken dreams, to identify purpose in the layers of pain, to uncover beauty beneath the surface of struggle. You're not just surviving your story, you're becoming an expert in the archaeology of redemption. When Jesus chose His disciples, He didn't select the most qualified or the most comfortable. He chose those who would be transformed through their journey with Him. Your placement in a toxic family isn't a mistake in divine selection. It's part of your preparation for spiritual revolution. Like those first disciples, your challenging background isn't a limitation. It's a launch pad for extraordinary impact. The chosen ones often carry what I call a divine resonance, an ability to vibrate at the frequency of both pain and healing. Like a tuning fork that can both detect and correct dissonant notes, your experiences have tuned you to recognize and respond to the pain in others with extraordinary precision. The very situations that threaten to silence you are actually fine-tuning you to become an instrument of divine harmony. Proverbs 25:4 says, "Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel." The process of removing dross, the impurities in metal, requires intense heat. The silversmith must watch carefully, maintaining just the right temperature, knowing exactly when the silver is pure. Your toxic family environment, though painful, is like that refiner's fire, not destroying you, but removing everything that would hinder your purpose until what remains is pure and precious, ready to be formed into a vessel of honor. You are being prepared for what I call redemptive leadership, the ability to lead others not despite your wounds, but because of them. Like a general who bears battle scars, your experiences give you credibility in the trenches of others' struggles. The very pain that threatened to break you is becoming your platform for extraordinary influence. So rise up, chosen one. Your story isn't finished, it's just beginning. The furnace of affliction hasn't consumed you, it has consecrated you. The wounds haven't weakened you, they've weaponized you for warfare against darkness. The pain hasn't crippled you, it has crowned you for a purpose greater than yourself. For you are more than a survivor, you are a chosen vessel, selected for divine purpose, positioned for extraordinary impact. Your toxic family environment isn't your tomb, it's your training ground. Your pain isn't your prison, it's your preparation. Your struggles aren't your story, they're your stepping stones to destiny. Embrace this truth. You were born for such a time as this. Not by accident, but by divine appointment. Not for ease, but for impact. Not for comfort, but for calling. The fire that was meant to destroy you is becoming your torch of truth. The pain that was meant to silence you is becoming your song of deliverance. The toxicity that was meant to poison you is becoming your medicine for healing others. Stand tall, chosen one. Walk forward in confidence. Your time of training is giving way to your season of triumph. For you are not just overcoming, you are becoming. Not just surviving, you are thriving. Not just enduring, you are emerging as a beacon of hope, a vessel of healing, a warrior of light in a world desperate for authentic transformation.